This is section 8.3. The homework is page 506, 30 to 36, 46 to 52 even. I'll be doing the problems 29 to 35 and 45 to 51 odd. Number 29 says a to the fourth minus 5a squared plus 6 is equal to 0. So I'm just going to factor this like normal. Multiply your coefficient of your first and last term. You get 6. List the factors of 6, 1 and 6, 2 and 3. Now both of those are going to give you 5, so we need to figure out which one works. So let's build our houses. We're going to put a squared here and a squared here, because remember we need a to the fourth, and a squared times a squared is a to the fourth. Always keep your first sign. If it's minus, change your second sign. And we need it to be positive 6 and negative 5. So negative 3 and negative 2 are going to give us negative 5. Then you're going to break each piece equal to 0. Add 3 to both sides. A squared is equal to 3. Square root both sides to get rid of the squared. The square root and the square cancel, leaving you a is equal to plus or minus the square root of 3. Plus or minus because we wrote the square root ourselves. Add 2 to both sides over here. You get a squared is equal to 2. Square root both sides. Square root and square cancel, leaving you a equals plus or minus the square root of 2. So your answers are negative square root of 3, negative square root of 2, positive square root of 2, and positive square root of 3. Okay, on this problem, the first thing we're going to have to do is find our LCD. Oops. So I'm going to go ahead and put parentheses around all of these so I don't get confused. And I'm going to write my LCD. Okay, and when you're writing your LCD, you need to make sure that every part of your denominator is represented. So I have x minus 2. So my LCD needs x minus 2. And then I have x plus 3. And then I have x plus 3, but x plus 3 is already represented, so I don't need to write it again. Now, each piece of the LCD, or each entire LCD, gets multiplied by every piece. So I have x minus 2 times x plus 3, x minus 2 times x plus 3, and x minus 2 times x plus 3. All right, in our first term, the x minus 2's cancel. In our second term, the x plus 3's cancel, and here the x plus 3's cancel. So now let's talk about what we've got left. We've got 2x times x plus 3 plus x times x minus 2 equals negative, be very careful there, 5 times x minus 2. Okay, so now we're going to distribute. 2x times x is 2x squared. 2x times 3 is 6x. X times x is x squared. X times negative 2 is negative 2x. Negative 5 times x is negative 5x. And negative 5 times 2 is positive 10. Times negative 2 is positive 10, I'm sorry. Combine like terms. 2x squared plus x squared is 3x squared. I'm going to cross those out so I don't use them again. 6x minus 2x is positive 4x is equal to negative 5x plus 10. Now we need to move everything to one side. Set it equal to 0 so that we can factor. So I'm going to add 5x to both sides, which gives me 3x squared plus 9x is equal to 10. Then I'm going to subtract 10 from both sides, giving me 3x squared plus 9x minus 10 is equal to 0. All right, now I always look to see if I can just do regular factoring first. So you need to multiply your first and your last number. You get 30. List your factors of 30. 1 and 30, 2 and 15, 3 and 10, and 5 and 6. And I need to see if any of those would give me 9. Okay, doesn't look like it, so we're going to have to use the quadratic formula. Or completing the square, whatever you'd like. Looks like in this situation the quadratic formula would be best. So A is 3, B is 9, and C is negative 10. Alright, let's go ahead and plug it in. X equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. So let's go ahead and clean this up. X equals negative 9 plus or minus the square root of 81. Negative 4 times 3 is negative 12. Negative 12 times 10 is positive 120. All over 6. Okay, clean it up a little bit more. Negative 9 plus or minus the square root of what is that? 201 divided by 6. 201 cannot be broken down, so your answer is negative 9 minus the square root of 201 over 6, and negative 9 plus the square root of 201 over 6. And that's your answer. Alright, here they're just asking me to do a little bit of distribution before I can go on with factoring and everything like that. So p plus 2 squared is p plus 2 times p plus 2. Then we're going to distribute our 9 equals 9p plus 18, and then throw that minus 20 on the end. Now we're going to distribute here, giving me p squared plus 2p plus 2p plus 4 is equal to 9p. Here, 18 minus 20 is negative 2, so I can go ahead and take care of that. Over here, we're going to combine like terms. 2p and 2p is 4p. So I have p squared plus 4p plus 4 equals 9p minus 2. Now I need to set the whole thing equal to 0. So I'm going to subtract 9p from both sides, giving me p squared minus 5p plus 4 equals negative 2. Then you're going to add 2 to both sides, giving me p squared minus 5p plus 6 is equal to 0. Okay, so I'm going to find my factors of 6 that could give me 5. So 6, I've got 1 and 6, and 2 and 3. Either one of those could give me 5. So we just need to figure out which one's going to work. Only one of them will work. So each house needs a p. Always keep your first sign. If your first sign is minus, you change your second sign. Alright, so it's either going to be 6, 1 or 3, 2. I need it to equal negative 5. So will negative 6 and minus 1 give me negative 5? No. But negative 3 minus 2 will. So it looks like this one's going to be 3 and 2. Alright, so then you're going to take each house and you're going to set it equal to 0. You're going to add 3 to both sides, giving you p equals 3 and p equals 2. You need to plug both of those back into the original equation to see if they work. So let's start with 3. Everywhere there's a p, I'm going to write a 3. 3 plus 2 squared equals 9 times 3 plus 2 minus 20. Alright, 3 plus 2 is 5. So 5 squared equals 9 times 5 minus 20. So 5 squared is 25. 9 times 5 is 45. Is 45 minus 20 25? Sure is. So 3 is a good one. Now let's try 2. So I've got 2 plus 2 squared equals 9 times 2 plus 2 minus 20. So this is 4 squared equals 9 times 4 minus 20. 4 squared is 16. 9 times 4 is 36. Is 36 minus 20 16? It sure is. So 2 is also a good answer. So 2, 3 is your answer. All right, here we have 2x equals the square root of 11 plus 3. So the first thing I'm going to do is go ahead and square both sides to get rid of this square root. 2x squared is 4x squared, because you have to square the 2 and square the x, is equal to the square root and the square cancel each other out, leaving me 11x plus 3. Now I need all of it on one side in order to be able to factor. So I'm going to subtract 11x from both sides, leaving me 4x squared minus 11x is equal to 3. Then I'm going to subtract 3 from both sides, leaving me 4x squared minus 11x minus 3 equals 0. So I'm going to find my factors of, it'll be 12, because it'll be 4 times 3, that give me 11. So I've got 1 and 12, 2 and 6, and 3 and 4. I'm going to use 1 and 12. So I'm going to build my houses. Remember, both houses get that 4x. Keep your first sign. If your first sign is negative, change your second sign. And the larger number always goes first. Make sure you look at each house and see if they have anything in common. This house has a 4 in common. So I'm going to divide out a 4. And this house doesn't have anything in common. So this leaves me, when I divide by 4, x minus 3 times 4x plus 1. And then you'll set each piece equal to 0. So x minus 3 equals 0, and 4x plus 1 equals 0. You're going to add 3 to both sides, and you'll get x equals 3. Subtract 1 from both sides, you get 4x equals negative 1. And then you're going to divide both sides by 4, leaving me x equals negative 1/4. Now you need to plug both of them back in to make sure that they work. So let's start with 3. So we had 2 times x, which is now 3, equals the square root of 11 times x, which is 3, plus 3. Okay, 2 times 3 is 6, equals the square root. 11 times 3 is 33, plus 3. 6 equals the square root of 36. That's true. So x equals 3 is good. Now let's try negative 1/4. So I have 2 times negative 1/4 is equal to the square root of 11 times negative 1/4 plus 3. 2 times negative 1/4, if I put a 1 over this, gives me negative 2/4, which is equal to the square root. If I put a 1 over this, it becomes negative 11/4 plus 3, which I'm going to put over 1 because I'm going to have to add fractions in just a second. Negative 2/4 is the same as negative 1/2, which is equal to the square root. If I get a common denominator of 4, your first fraction stays the same. 1 goes into 4 4 times 3 is 12, or you could have said 1 times what gives me 4, it's times 4. So you have to multiply both of them times 4. So this is negative 1/2 is equal to the square root. You do negative 11 plus 12, which is going to give you positive 1/4. Okay, so I have negative 1/2 is equal to the square root of 1 over the square root of 4, which is negative 1/2 is equal to 1/2. Is that the same thing? Nope. So negative 1/4 is not a possibility. So your only possibility is 3. So 3 is your answer. Okay, number 45 says x minus the square root of x equals 2. I need to isolate the radical, so I'm going to subtract x from both sides, giving me negative square root of x equals negative x plus 2. Now you can either divide by negative 1 or square both sides at this point. I always divide by negative 1. Those cancel, leaving me the square root of x equals, dividing by negative 1 just means the numerator, they just change signs. So it was negative x plus 2, now it's x minus 2. Now I'm going to square both sides to get rid of the square root, leaving me x equals, make sure you put your parentheses, because this is x minus 2 times x minus 2. So you get x equals x squared minus 2x plus 4. Combine your like terms. You get negative 2x minus 2x is negative 4x. And then you're going to move the x to the other side so that your problem is set equal to 0 so that you can factor. Okay, you're set. Now let's see if we can just factor using our original way of factoring. So it's the factors of 4. So I have 1 and 4 and 2 and 2. 1 and 4 can give me 5. So this can be normally factored. Both houses get an x. Keep your first sign. If your first sign is minus, change your second sign. Larger number always goes first. Okay, so then you set each house equal to 0. Add 4 to both sides, x equals 4. Add 1 to both sides, x equals 1. You need to check your work, so you're going to plug 4 into the original equation, which was x minus the square root of x is equal to 2. 4 minus the square root of 4 is 2. Is 4 minus 2 2? Sure is. So 4 is a good one. Now let's try 1. 1 minus the square root of 1 equals 2. The square root of 1 is 1. Does 1 minus 1 equal 2? No, it does not. So 1 is not a good answer. So your entire solution set is just 4, which is why it's so important for you to check your work. All right. On 47, I have to find the LCD. But first, before I do that, I need to factor this. This is difference of squares, so this becomes x plus 1 times x minus 1. So now when I build my LCD, I need to represent every piece of the denominator. So I have x minus 1, and then I need x plus 1, and then I need x plus 1, which I already have, and then x minus 1, which I already have. So your LCD is getting multiplied by every piece. X minus 1, x plus 1, x minus 1, x plus 1, x minus 1, x plus 1. And let's see what cancels. X minus 1's cancel here, x plus 1's cancel here, x minus 1's and x plus 1's cancel here. Let's look at what we've got left. I have x times x plus 1 plus 1 times x minus 1 equals 2. Distribute. X squared plus x minus 1 equals 2. Combine your like terms. X plus x is 2x. And then move 2 to the left so we're set equal to 0. Okay. Now I'm going to see if I can regularly factor this. I need my factors of 3. That can give me 2. So 1 and 3 will work. So I'm going to build my houses. This is x and x. Keep your first sign. If your first sign is positive, you keep your second sign. Larger number always goes first. So you have x plus 3 equals 0, and x minus 1 equals 0. Subtract 3 from both sides, giving you x equals negative 3, and add 1 to both sides, giving you x equals 1. So your answers are negative 3 and 1. Let's check them to see if they work. So I've got negative 3 over negative 3 minus 1 plus 1 over negative 3 plus 1 is equal to 2 over negative 3 plus 1 times negative 3 minus 1. All right, So that gives me negative 3 over negative 3 minus 1 is negative 4, plus 1 over negative 3 plus 1 is negative 2, is equal to 2 over negative 3 plus 1 is negative 2, times negative 3 minus 1 is negative 4. So I'm going to change this to positive 3/4 because a negative over a negative is a positive, minus 1/2. All I did was move this negative here, is equal to 2 over 8, because negative 2 times negative 4 is 8. Okay, so scoot this up some. Common denominator of 4. First one doesn't change. 2 goes into 4 2 times. 2 times 1 is 2. And we're going to reduce 2 over 8 to 1/4. 3 minus 2 is 1. And you keep your common denominator. So negative 3 works. Now let's see if 1 works. So we're going to do 1 over 1 minus 1 plus 1 over 1 plus 1 is equal to 2 over 1 plus 1, 1 minus 1. All right, so when we simplify this, we get 1 over 0. Wait a minute, you can't have 1 over 0, that's undefined. So obviously this one doesn't work. So your answer is just negative 3. Again, if you hadn't checked your work. All right, p to the 4th minus p squared minus 20 equals 0. So you need to find your factors of 20 that will give you 1. So I've got 1 and 20, 2 and 10, and 4 and 5. It's going to be 4 and 5. Build your houses. You've got p squared for both because you want p to the 4th. Keep your first sign. If your first sign is minus, you change your second sign. Larger number always goes first. So then you have p squared minus 5 is equal to 0. And p squared plus 4 is equal to 0. Add 5 to both sides. You get p squared equals 5. Take the square root in order to get rid of that squared, and you get p equals plus or minus the square root of 5. Plus or minus because you wrote that square root. Subtract 4 from both sides. You get p squared equals negative 4. Square root to get rid of the square. P equals plus or minus the square root of negative 4. So p equals plus or minus 2i. I because you have a negative under a square root, and 2 because the square root of 4 is 2. So your answers are negative square root of 5, positive square root of 5, negative 2i, and positive 2i. All right. Says x plus 3 times x squared minus 3x plus 9. Okay, since it's already broken up like that, you can go ahead and set each piece equal to 0. So you have x plus 3 equals 0, and x squared minus 3x plus 9 is equal to 0. So I can subtract 3 from both sides, and I get x equals negative 3 as one of my answers. And then over here, I'm going to need to factor. Factors of 9 that give me 3, I've got 1 and 9, and 3 and 3. None of those are going to give me 3, so I'm going to have to use the quadratic formula. Okay, so I'm going to do ignore that because we're not going to be able to use it. So A is 1, B is negative 3, and C is 9. So you're going to do x equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. So I have x equals negative 3 is positive 3 plus or minus the square root of negative 3 squared is 9. Negative 4 times 1 is negative 4 times 9 is negative 36. all over 2, which is 3 plus or minus the square root 9 minus 36 is negative 27, all over 2. So I have to simplify the square root of negative 27. So I know I'm going to pull an I out of that. Let's see what 27 breaks down into. 9 times 3, and 9 is 3 times 3. So it's going to be 3 square root of 3. So 3i square root of 3. So that's x equals 3 plus or minus 3i square root of 3 all over 2. So my answer is 3 minus 3i square root of 3 over 2, and 3 plus 3i square root of 3 over 2. Oh my goodness, I can't believe I did that. And don't forget that negative 3 from the very beginning of the problem. Do you remember? All the way up here. I can't believe I almost did that. So, comma, negative 3. So you have 3 answers. Excuse me for that. Have a great day, and I will see you all tomorrow.